So did I give up everything? Welcome to Tools to Manifest Your Dream Life with myself, Glenyce Hughes. Thank you so much for being here. I am so incredibly grateful for each and every one of you. I am at, if you're watching the video, this beautiful lake called Bright Sand Lake in Saskatchewan. It's very close to where I grew up, where many of my family members still live around. And hubby and I are here for a couple of weeks. We are petless. We are not doing a pet sit right now. We could not actually find one in the area. So we have rented a cabin here, and I mean, it's gorgeous. Now, it's also very cloudy. So I did go in the water yesterday in early June. It's amazing. They call it a cold plunge. That's really what it is. So anyway, did I really give up everything? I received an email from someone who came into my world when I was facilitating classes from Access Consciousness. Many of you are from that time, maybe before, and stayed with me, or maybe, came back after I left Access Consciousness. However you're here, I'm grateful you're here. But this person sent in this question that basically, the way that I read it was, why did you give up everything? And I'm like, give up everything? And I realized that, to some people, it might seem like I gave up everything. And when I responded to the email, the first thing I said was, I didn't give up anything. And I no longer facilitate the classes. And what it really made me look at, so I'm so grateful. If you happen to be the one who sent in that question, please know how grateful I am for it, because it really got me to look at it from a different angle for myself. Because wow, yes, people around me could really see it as that. I gave up everything. I was a facilitator with Access Consciousness for over 10 years. I have 10 years of content out there that is me promoting Access Consciousness, whether it was my classes or the founders' classes or whatever, but it's all about the tools from Access Consciousness. So I gave up everything, and yet I don't feel like I gave up anything. In fact, I feel like by me choosing to actually take a stand about something that I just don't agree with, it just doesn't sit right with me. When I think of consciousness, I do not think about cursing people to die because you disagree with them. So that is for any of you who didn't watch my video about it last September, or haven't heard me talk about it, or I have a 3-part series. We'll put a link if you want to purchase it and really deep dive into all of it with myself, kind of my life beyond Access Consciousness. There was a lot of me that I gave up to be a part of Access Consciousness, and that was my choice. So I'm not doing this as they're wrong and I'm right and they're horrible. It's none of that. There's a lot of stories out there right now. Is it Australian News? I can't remember the exact name. There's a whole newspaper in Australia that is doing amazing articles about all the stuff that people should be aware of, that I was a little bit aware of, not nearly aware of to the degree that it's going on. But that's not what I want to talk about it from. I really want to talk about it from what I chose. And what I chose was to really basically separate myself from me, because it didn't go with a lot of what was taught in Access Consciousness. So when I first started, I was actually a professional medium, meaning that I talked to dead people. People paid me to talk to their dead people and do sessions. Now, I was ready to be done doing that. It was just, I'd been doing it for over 10 years. I was ready to be done. And when I entered Access Consciousness, one of the things that they spoke about was how disempowering that can be. And I really took that completely. Like, that's disempowering and I need to stop. And again, this is all me, all my choice. And so I did. So I stopped doing mediumship readings. I didn't stop right away. It was over a course of a few years until I built up my access business enough to be able to do that. So I did that. So I cut that off, and I see that now. I see that, one, I was looking for a way out because I was ready to be done doing those sessions. So it was great for that. It gave me kind of a reason and a justification for it. But it still cut off a piece of myself, because connecting with the spirit world, dead people, angels, guides, whatever you want to call them, that's a huge part of my capacities. In fact, starting July 9th, 2024, I have an amazing 4-week program all about engaging with your energetic team. And if you join us by June 30th, 2024, you will get a 15-minute session with me to basically connect and engage with your team, with your energetic team. Details are above or below. If you can't find them, reach out and I will get them for you. And it wasn't really until I started stepping away from Access that I started looking at what I had given up, what I had cut off for myself to be within that organization, and to, in a lot of ways, especially early on, to be liked and to be seen as someone, and all the crazy that goes along with that. So what I really see is that I didn't give everything up. I didn't let go of everything. I really came back to me with my choice of really seeing what is and really being present with what is, and not from that wrongness, not that any of what I chose was wrong. I don't regret it at all. I don't look at those 10 plus years and wish I'd chose something different. I really don't. What I know is that, I gained a lot. There were so many gifts in it for myself. And the tools, I don't use a lot of them now. Some of them I do. The ones that I do use, though, are tools that were brought into Access from other modalities and such. So I have done my research to see what was brought in and what actually works for me. Not from Access tools are bad or wrong, because they are not at all. They have helped many, many people over the years. It's just that a lot of times we take it as this is the Access tool, and yet actually it was brought in from something else, which, great. That's a lot of modalities do that. They extrapolate, where they go, to different modalities and they bring in bits and pieces and all of that. And so I just wanted to get clear with myself. And then that way too, when I'm talking about it, if it's not a tool that I've, in a sense, kind of created on my own, I've brought it in from another modality, I want to be honest with what that is. I want to say, hey, this is a tool from Access Consciousness or from EFT training, or there's so many things that I've done over the years. And so, kind of going back to that, like, did I give myself up? Did I just, lose it all? And it's like, I feel like I gained so much. I feel like I'm so much more of me now than I was ever before. And I would say a part of that is because I don't judge those 10 plus years. I don't see that as, a bad choice or bad choices. It really is just the recognition that I chose that, and there was so much to be grateful for. The as we would say in Access, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? It's not just like, oh, those guys do a certain thing or they shouldn't be doing that or any of that. There's all of that, of course. And you can read all that stuff from the Australian paper. And I understand there's more coming out, and there's videos, and there's all sorts of things. So if you really want to kind of get the bigger picture, be sure to check that stuff out. But you don't have to either. So, you don't have to defend staying. If you're within Access Consciousness and you want to stay there, please just stay there. Enjoy it. You do not have to defend it or, judge yourself for staying or anything. For some people, it's their entire business. For me, it was my entire business. And from the moment that I chose to no longer be an Access Consciousness certified facilitator, I had an entire year to start shifting and changing things within my business. Now, if that would have been, would have I done that on the day that occurred? No, because that's not smart. Same as, so many years ago when I knew that I was done being a professional medium, I didn't stop the day that it was like clear that was where I was going. It's like, I actually need to continue. This is our livelihood. So I need to look at how this fits. And because the event happened on the recertification of my license, I had an entire year. I knew I wasn't recertifying, but nobody knew basically for that year. And that was more about planning for myself and setting myself up. And again, not because the tools are wrong or scary or bad or evil or any of that. They're great tools, absolutely. So use what works. And really, what I often remind myself in any situation where I'm making a change is that for the most part, I want to say 100%, but I don't think it's fair to say 100% because I'm sure there's times where that's not true. But for the most part, when we make a change, it actually does work out for the better. It does create greater. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean in that moment it feels greater or that it appears even greater. It might take a while. You know, if you go through a divorce, you may not actually get to that greater. You might not get there for a year or two, but you'll get there. I'm sure of it. Again, I can't say 100% of the time, but I would say most of the time, any change we make will invite us to greater, invite us to greater of ourselves. And so in that case, it might be the greatness that invites us to is to choose something different. We might choose a certain, person to be a significant other for us, and then realize that this isn't that person. This isn't who we would like. And so we make a different choice. So again, it might not be in that moment that you're saying, oh, this was greater, but it could get you to greater. And we talk a lot about this, hubby and I, in our pet sitting adventures. And we actually have a brand new podcast. It is called Paw Prints and Passports, Exploring the World Through Pet Sitting. So I'll put a link above or below to check it out if you would like. And it's one of the things that we talked about in our very first episode was you don't know until you know. You don't know until you try. So I didn't even know, looking after dogs that we didn't have a fenced yard for, how difficult that was until I looked after dogs that we didn't have a fenced yard for. So if we get out of this idea that there's a right thing, there's a right person, there's a right situation, there's a right time, there's a right job, there's a right, if we get out of that idea, then everything can actually just be an invitation to something greater. Because now we're very clear that if it says no fenced yard, we're probably not going to apply. However, doesn't mean we won't. We're also flexible. If we know we have 3 days to fill between sits, we probably would take a sit that doesn't have a fenced yard. It means a little extra work for those 3 days, but I'd actually rather have that in a lot of cases than actually rent a hotel or something like that. So again, we've got to be flexible with it. We've got to just be open to the idea that if we're willing to receive it, there's so much that we're being gifted constantly. If we don't go into the wrongness of it, if we never see it as giving up everything or losing everything or, this is the worst thing ever. And of course, I'm going to just preface that with I'm talking more general life stuff. Now, there's times where this is the worst thing ever. Of course, someone we love dies or something like that. Then these aren't the times I'm talking about. I'm just talking about kind of general choices and such. And so then we could look at it as like, okay, and I love asking, all right, what is this inviting me to? What greatness is this inviting me to? And that question is actually from a friend of mine. Her name is Tanya. She's brilliant. And she was in a class of mine years ago, and she had a lot of body problems going on. And she started asking that question. When most of it, to the degree that she was struggling with her body, most of us wouldn't have just got out of bed. Like, that's how bad it was in, me looking in. And she started asking herself, okay, so what is this greatness that I'm being invited to? What is my body inviting me to with this? What? Like, brilliant, because you get out of the victim of it into the possibilities of it. So if there's anything in your life that you're looking at and you feel like you lost everything, or you gave up everything, or you made a choice that wrecked everything, or it's the end of the world because you didn't choose this thing or whatever, please just stop and ask, okay, what greatness is this inviting me to? What is possible now that wasn't possible before? What am I aware of now that I wasn't aware of before this? Right? It just puts us into what I often call is like that, we're infinitely creative. So it puts us into that creative space, into putting our creative energy into creating greater than creating less. Because I'm going to say it's easy to sit around and complain. It's easy to say how horrible something is, how awful it is, to act like a victim. Just sit back and be like, oh, darn, too bad. Guess I'll just sit here. Now, honestly, I'll just sit here. You know, if you're watching the video, you'll see I'm pointing to the lake. I'll just sit here. But that's a different space. So yeah, there we are. There's my little spin on giving up and letting go of everything. And man, it's just an invitation to greater. And especially when things are out of alignment for you, like that, letting that stuff go, having the courage to let that stuff go that truly doesn't work for you. There's a freedom there, my friend, that I cannot put words to. I would love to invite you to my manifesting membership. We have so many goodies each month. There's a facilitation call, there's a training, you get an energetic exercise every Monday. I mean, there's just all sorts of magic, and I would love to have you. It is what I call low ticket, high value, $29 US or $39 Canadian a month for all that and more. Check it out. Link is above or below. If you don't see a link, let me know and I will get it for you. Have a great week, sweet friends. I look forward to chatting again soon.